And welcome to That's Girl Speaks. Today is Tuesday, January 31st. This is episode 190. I need a surface to put things on. I don't have one here. Anyway, my name is Amy Beth. I am also known as The Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and The Fat SQRRL on Instagram. How are you? If you're new, or you just didn't know, you can find show notes at thefatsquirrel.com. What? You totally can. I'm just telling you. There's also a Ravelry group under The Fat Squirrel Speaks if you want to join that. No pressure. Whatever. It's cool. What you want to talk about, right? It's been an intense 2 weeks, y'all. Intense. I mean, this bubble has been pretty normal. But boy, that outside the bubble is crazy. So I don't know how to talk about it, so I won't. But dude, I will share these two new podcasts that I've started listening to, which so far I've really enjoyed. I've started listening to the Slates, just like SLATE, Slate's The Gist. And I will recommend especially the episode called Deregulation Nation, which is the guest there is the author of American Amnesia, which is a book that talks about governmental regulation and how kind of like our larger culture has kind of a knee-jerk reaction to be against governmental regulation, but how historically in our own country and other countries, how regulation really almost always benefits the overall population. It was just very interesting. That was very cool. So he was on there, and then the other one that I just listened to, like literally, I just took my headphones off as soon as we started talking, was called How Should We Talk About Whiteness? Sorry, pause. And the guest there was Mark Lamont Hill, and he's a professor at Morehouse College, and he has a book. Oh yeah, there it is. Nobody, Causalities of America's War on the Vulnerable, from Ferguson to Flint and Beyond. And it was very interesting. It was only like 25 minutes long. I guess 31 minutes long. And the whole thing is not even him. But man, it was like a super awesome compacted nugget of like information. It was very good. But then also I have started listening to Slate's Double X podcast, which is very, I'll just read you what they call it. It's very cute. It's audio programming from Double X, Slate's blog founded by women, but not just for women. So I found that to be very interesting. I've only listened to like 2 episodes of that, but I have found that also to be very interesting. So those 2 things I've enjoyed this week, these last 2 weeks. Oops. Blink. And that's all I'll say about that. Thank you for being patient with me while I'm being kind of scatterbrainedy. I was supposed to record today, but then my husband was home, and then suddenly, so I had like a moment where he left to go pick up our child from board game club. She's totally a board game club. I might be a little excited, okay? And she does not want to play board games with me at all lately, which is such a bummer. Whatever, I'm just trying to ride out the phase. This weekend we did play Fauna. Have you played that? It's it's Fauna. They also make a board game called Terra, and there's also one called like Americana. I don't know, I could be making that up, but it's something about America. And what Fauna is this really fun like trivia game, but instead of you getting the right answer, there's an aspect of, yes, there is an aspect of knowing the facts, but there's also hedging your bets against what other people are saying or what their guess is. So for example, you get a card and you are just shown a line drawing of the animal in question. In Fauna, it's animals. And from what I understand, in Terra, it's geographical geographical questions. And I'm assuming America is American questions. American history or something. So you just see this line drawing of an animal, and then usually you have to guess where in the world it is. And the map is not by countries, it is by regions. Like, the Gobi Desert, and one region is like, some of them are like Australia is also a region, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's like Uganda. It's like the Rhodesian basin or something. You know what I mean? So it's regional. So you don't get you're not like, oh, the Bornean orangutan is clearly in Borneo. You're like, dude, I think Borneo's there, right? It's totally there, right? So there's that aspect of it. Which also I think kind of helps with kids when you're playing with kids. That kind of helps to level it out a little bit, that they can pick a region more than a specific country. But anyway, so you put your markers on like where you think it's from, but you're also guessing on its weight, its length or height, and also sometimes its tail length. So you get to put these little, and so like you can think, okay, I know that Tova's favorite animal is the panda, and she probably knows where it comes from. I'll see where she puts her marker on the location, and then I'm going to put my marker next to hers. Because you get points for being exactly on the region, the weight, or the whatever, and then you get points for adjacency. And of course, those fewer regions an animal is found in, the more points you get for getting it correct. And for example, a cormorant is found in 40 locations, so you get no points for getting an adjacency in that situation. You only get points if you actually put the marker on the place that the cormorants are from. Greater cormorant. I don't know that there's a lesser cormorant, but perhaps there is. Anyway, but we played that. It was actually quite fun. I thought it would be fun. And even though we had, my partner and I had very close scores, Tova was quite a bit behind. But again, it was a fun experience and it didn't feel competitive. And I told her we could figure out, if we play a few times, we can figure out like what her handicap should be, if it makes her feel more comfortable to be closer to us in score. So anyway, I guess I should do shenanigans. That was kind of a shenanigan. Oh, we were talking about board. Okay, so all these things happened. I know, right? My brain. So all of these things happened, which made me be able to do a podcast when I wasn't expecting to do one. So I was doing like 7 other things, and then like my partner left, and I was like, oh crud, I'm supposed to be recording right now. But I had to do a bit of a scurry. Anywho. So shenanigans. Oh my gosh, kids. We actually do have shenanigans this time. Let's see, what did we do? We participated in one of the sister rallies, or sister marches, whatever you want to call them, for the Women's March on Washington. So we participated in our Indianapolis, Indiana location, and we wore our pussy hats, which I'll show you in a minute in my finished object section. It was a pretty awesome experience. I will not lie, as we were coming up on the date for the rally, I thought, is this like a real person who's organizing this? Because of course, I mean, that's one of the great things about Facebook, is that anybody, I guess, could really organize it. But like at one point when they were realizing they were going to have more, because originally they were going to have it inside our Indiana State building, but then they realized they needed to have it outside because there would be too many people attending. But there was this strange moment where the organizer put a call out for anybody who had like PA equipment, and I thought, and then like a few days later, there was a shout out that was like, thank you to so-and-so's sister's band for donating PA equipment to use during the, and I was really like, am I really going to go to this? But it turned out really great. There were some awesome speakers, really very inspiring speakers. I was very impressed. And it was a great amount of people and energy. It was very cool, and a great experience. So we did that. And then the next weekend, we went to a Friday night owl hike at one of our city's parks. In this case, it was Holiday Park. But our Eagle Creek Park, which is like our biggest park, also hosts the same event. And it was super fun. It was on a night that was actually cold, but not terribly cold. And so you go at night, and so the nature center is already like shut down. The interpretive center, whatever you want to call it, is already shut down. So you kind of feel like it's secret, because you have to go in like this back entrance, like you got the knowledge because they sent you the thing that was like, come around back, knock 3 times, do a dance. Right. So they have a big bonfire outside, and people are like having s'mores, and it was very cute. She was like, everybody can have 2 marshmallows, but only, anyway, it was very cute. And then, so there was this kind of like around the fire time, and then we went in and they gave a talk about our Indiana owls and what owls we can find here. And they talked a little bit just about different parts of like owl anatomy and physiology, and it was very interesting. And then we got to dissect. Oh, and then they have a screech owl that is has an injured wing that can never be released. It has a permanent injury in its wing that it can fly a little bit, but almost like a bird that has clipped wings can fly. And she's super little, and her name is Olive. So she's like this big. She's so cute. And so we got to meet Olive, and then we got to dissect owl pellets, which is the undigestible food that owls eat because they just eat their food whole. And so then they're like fur and bones, the things they can't digest come up in these owl pellets. So we got to dissect one, and it was so cool. We found like these little tiny jawbones from probably a mouse or something that the owl ate. And then the like young man who was next to us, who was like this single young man who was like in his 20s. I was thinking maybe one of his, like maybe a mom or aunt or something was one of the naturalists. He had one that had like a whole rodent skull with like the big long teeth in the front, and it was again very tiny, but it was like perfectly intact in the owl pellet with these like crazy long front fangs. It was so cool. I had to like spur Tova on. She's not quite sure how she feels about grossness. Like, I'm all about grossness. Like, I'll touch a worm, I'll dissect the owl pellet. Those are not even really gross things, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm all about the moderate grossness. And she is interested, but it takes her a minute to like be okay. So I started to dissect the owl pellet, and then she got to the point where she was like, I think she realized that it wasn't gonna like jump and bite her in the face or anything. And she got on board. So it was really fun. And I was really afraid that she'd be like the only kid, like the oldest kid there. But it was so cool because not only were there other kids of just like wildly varying ages, from like little toddleries to, you know, her age, and well, maybe amongst the kids she was an older one. But really the vast majority of the people were just adult couples or adult family units. It was so fun. It was very exciting to see adults going to do something like this. I don't know, it made me happy. Yay. And the naturalist was super cute. Oh, naturalists. Why are you so cute? Anyway, so it was super fun. So let me look and see on my notes if there's anything else I was supposed to say before we get into... I'm going to do from the boards really briefly, and then we'll get into some stuff. Okay. So I did that. Okay. Ta-da! Okay. So then, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, from the boards. That's what I was going to do. So last week's episode, we talked about a lot of different stuff. We talked about minimalism. We talked about my ceiling falling in from plumbing issues. By the way, we totally hammered up a trash bag to cover the hole in our ceiling because insulation kept falling through. It's very close to the dog's bowls, and it made me very nervous. So, like, somehow having a garbage bag tacked up to your ceiling is even sketchier than just having a hole in your ceiling. I don't know why, but it is. So anyway, so there were lots of great stories, and I'm not trying to devalue you by not listing yours, but I just, a few. And again, I remember I was in a hurry. But anyway, so Knitter Mom 9, I don't usually read stories, but I thought this one was funny. And since I'm a fat lady, I'm just going to read it because I thought it was funny, being a fat lady. One of the things I talked about was being afraid that I would fall through the floor. Do you remember that? Okay, so she just said she just paused the podcast to tell this story. My dear friend is a significantly large woman who married a tall, skinny guy. She tells the story of a family reunion on her side of the family where everyone is comparable to her in size. At one point, she noticed her husband standing in a doorway near the kitchen. A few minutes later, he was in the doorway in the living room. She kept seeing him looking up and next to walls. So he was, Finally, she caught up to him and asked what was up with him. And he said, honey, I don't want to be rude, but honestly, I feel safer standing near the weight-bearing walls in case this place collapses. people. And then the last thing I will mention is if you just go and look at the one of the number 16 in the comment section, Boston Jen. Boston Jen posts an article, which I also read. And let me see, what was the title of the article? It was published in the Telegraph, the UK Telegraph, and what was her name? Michelle McGaw, I guess is how you say her name. Anyway, she does an entire year without buying things. Like, not just without, like, I've heard of people saying, or doing like a no plastics or a no new things. But she goes a year and doesn't buy anything except her groceries. And meaning she doesn't even eat out. She does live in London, but she even goes so far as to not give herself an allowance for public transportation. She just rides her bike everywhere. Like no going to pubs with friends. Very interesting. So anyway, I highly recommend it. It's a very short little article, but it's just interesting to get you thinking about, you know, how you spend your money. What could you do without? All these interesting things. So interesting. One thing I can't do without, yarn. I bought some. And then maybe some more. Okay. But I did not buy $160 worth of soap making supplies, which I really convinced myself for a good 36 hours that we needed. But then I decided that we needed to donate to rescue.org more than I needed those $160 worth of soap making supplies. So we just bought some soap from a lady and then donated to rescue.org. Because in the moment that felt better. Anywho. Okay, so I think that's all from the notes, right? We're like super short. Maybe I'll get you a decently short episode this week. Also in shenanigans, for Christmas, I have had a grain mill on my wish list for like 3 years now. It's kind of one of those things that it wasn't terribly expensive, but it was one of those things that I've always wanted. I couldn't really justify buying it. For again, this is only just for me. You do whatever you want. But I was like, for some reason, I couldn't justify buying it. I could justify buying anything else. But for some reason, that was like I shouldn't buy that. It was just holding out for somebody to give it to me for a gift. I don't know. But for whatever reason, for Christmas this year, my husband did purchase it for me. Yay! By the way, I can't believe he bought it. Because he's often like, why are there so many things in this kitchen? This place is crazy. But anyway, it's the Victorio Deluxe Grain Mill. And it is a hand crank option. I just wanted the hand crank one, but my husband did purchase the motor that you can add to it. And I am glad he did. It is hard to crank that, but that's really, I kind of think that's fun. Like, I was really fantasizing about having this like one Popeye bicep, and I could be like, dude, this is my yarn winding, grain grinding bicep. You know what I mean? Like, I was totally down with that. Maybe I get like a tattoo of it. It would be fun to get a tattoo of your muscle on your muscle. Like, a big old tattoo on it and just like flex all the time. But the reason I'm ultimately glad he did purchase the motor is that when you crank it, it requires enough force that it's just like a thing that clamps on a counter. And so I'm sure that maybe like we could make it more secure, like by actually using some sort of like longer lever to tighten it more. But really the most I could, and I'm carrying around 350 pounds. Like, I'm fairly strong when I'm not also carrying my 350 pounds. But so I'm fairly strong, and as tight as I could make it, I kept loosening it up from the force of grinding the corn or the grain. I haven't ground corn yet, but that's next. So the motor makes it much easier. A, obviously you're not cranking the thing, but B, it just doesn't move around on your counter, so you're not constantly having to like readjust the thing and like mess with it, which I highly appreciate. But in the event of the EM pulse that will decimate our electricity, I do know I have the option of cranking it by hand, which I feel very comforting about. cuckoo. But anyway, whatever. So we've been experimenting with that, and I got this book from the library. It's called Homeground Flower. And there are other books that our library has, but this one was just like the first one that I picked up. Actually, I didn't pick it up. I picked it out, and then my library brought it to my local library, and I'm appreciative of that. But one thing I like about it is that it really does gives you information about mills, which I don't care about because I have the one I have, and I'm not shopping for a new one. But it also gives you good information about pretty much every grain I could think of. Like, there's information about sorghum. I'm just going to go ahead and admit, I didn't even know sorghum was a grain. I just knew sorghum molasses. I didn't know that sorghum was actually a grain. Still, yeah, you learn something new. But it's got lots of information about not only each grain, but information about actually milling the grain into a flour, and then how you would bake, like the baking characteristics of that grain. So it's not just for people who need gluten-free, although there is lots of information about gluten-free, but it's just for anybody who's interested in experimenting with other grains. So fun. So we, like anybody else in this house, gives a flying fig about this process. I have basically just been experimenting with different grains in breads. I haven't gotten into like quick breads or muffins or anything like that yet. I'm just experimenting on good old-fashioned yeast breads. But so far it's been pretty fun. I've done some kamut baguettes. Well, they're not really baguettes, they're like demis. But that was very interesting, like experimenting with like what the different quantities you can use. And kamut is very flavorful, but has much less exciting gluten formation than your regular wheat. And so the bread didn't look as pretty, but it was very tasty. And it still had enough structure to rise and everything and maintain a fairly good shape. I might have overproofed it, which might be why it was a little bit slack looking, which means I might have let it rise a little bit too long before I put it in the oven. But anyway, it's been fun. I highly recommend it. Explore! All these even had, well, I don't know if it's like in that seasonal section, so I never know how long they're going to hang around, but all these had like quinoa and farro and barley, and I can't remember that bulgur. But anyway, so they had a good little selection. I mean, you can find all of those grains in the bulk section of your like Whole Foods. It's called Whole Foods now, right? It used to be Wild Oats. I can never quite get it right. We also have a place called Good Earth, which has a bulk section. But that's a local place. I didn't mean that place. What's that other new grocery store? I can't remember. But anyway, and then Bob's Red Mill. And the reason I kind of got started on this kick was A, I got a grain mill for Christmas. Okay. But B, a very close friend who's super awesome sent me a gift card for Bob's Red Mill, so I was able to get a big selection of different grains, which was very fun. Another reason I try not to record the podcast this late in the afternoon is there are like domestic disturbances a go-go in my neighborhood. Don't they know I'm trying to record a knitting podcast? Simmer down, people. So anyway, so that's like not that much, that's not like great information, but that's just to let you know, that's one of the things I'm experimenting with. It's been pretty fun. Yay! See, did you hear that? That was that guy who was just having a domestic disturbance peeling out of his parking place. Serenity now! Anywho. So, like, I guess maybe we could talk about knitting now that I've been yammering forever about things that you may or may not be interested in. But I'm interested in them enough to yammer about them. So, a couple weeks ago, you may remember, was it before Christmas? Yes, it was before Christmas, so it's been more than a couple weeks ago. Okay, let's be honest, people. I was knitting on a cowl for Tova, and I forgot to show, well, she had it on when I did the last podcast, so I didn't get to show it to you. But I wanted to show that to you now, if I can find the name of the stinking thing. Wow, apparently I've looked at like 9,000 patterns. There it is. It's the Parula cowl, Parula, and that is a pattern by Keeling Kinnersley. I'll try to remember to put that in the show notes. But so here it is. It's knit with Cloudborne's Bulky, so it's like Superwash Merino Bulky, I think. So it's just a simple little cowl. I did the experiment because I thought the kiddo would like these colors together, and it's, again, mega soft. Right? It's perfect. It's a perfect bus stop cowl. And now that she doesn't wear glasses, she can actually wear a cowl without them fogging up, which might be like the best advertisement for contacts ever. Just saying. Maybe I should just do the rest of the podcast like this. Anyway, it's super soft and super fluffy, and it was a very quick project. And I'm very excited to do one. I used 3 colors. I did gray and white for the background, and then this like sky blue for the foreground, like the latticey bits. So beautiful. But what I'm really excited about doing one is with hand spun. So I have some hand spun to use as the background, and then just like a solid gray for the foreground. I think it'd be very pretty. Yay! And these little super simple cowls, I find I get a lot of use out of because they're not so bulky to put under your jacket. So you don't have like this weird chicken breastbone thing happening here, because I already kind of have that even without a scarf. You don't have like all this stuff wadded up, and yet they still do the job of keeping you warm, even if they're not quite as fancy. Okay, so other finished objects. So this is Tova's hat for the March. And this is the Kit Kat hat, and I apologize, I don't know who offhand wrote that pattern. But this is the Kit Kat hat. It's in Madeline Tosh DK in the neon pink colorway. I think those are all the words I was supposed to say. Yes, I think so. Andre Sunitz. So, yes, I did tack her ears down. I just stitched her ears down. It recommends to do that. You'll notice in the pattern it is written for a ribbed brim. I did hers with a folded brim. Basically, this is a free pattern. So the cast on in the pattern is 88, I believe. Mirror. Yeah, the cast on is 88. So I think I did go up to like 92 because it was DK and it was originally worsted. I can't remember. But what I did was I shot for 92 to be the, no, that's what it was 100. I went from 90 to 100. So I cast on 90, and then I did, and then I got to the fold, and then the row right before the fold, I did a knit 9, make 1. So that turned my 90 stitches into 100 stitches. So that makes the inside just a little snugger, and I think sometimes it can kind of help this seam look slightly less exaggerated. But it also just kind of helps to keep on your head better. But anyway, so there's that. Ta-da! And then mine was originally eared. This is the Ricky hat. That is literally I think it might be my favorite hat to wear. It's definitely my favorite hat to wear, quite frankly. Not this specific one, but just the Ricky in general. I love to wear. I just always enjoy it. This is, what's that chick's name? This is Hedgehog Fibers in the Pinky Swear colorway that I purchased from Simply Sock Yarn because they are in Indiana and they get me stuff very fast. Because they're just up the road a little bit, like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. But I ordered this and I was all like, I usually don't put notes on things, but if you could just, because I ordered this and this from them, and maybe also something else. Shut up, judge away. I didn't buy those soap making supplies, I'm just saying. So I don't have any pink yarn, because like I'm just not a pink gal. Like, not that I'm not against pink, I just never even occurs to me to wear pink. And when I do, it makes me feel slightly self-conscious because it's just like very like, ha! So, anyway, Simply Sock Yarn, they were awesome. They got it to me super fast. But what I was going to say before I took this off like a dummy is I actually originally made mine, even though I used the Ricky hat pattern, And it's garter stitch. I do it in the round, and I just wrap and turn at each end of the round. If you don't know how to do that, Knitting Pipeline, Paula Emmons-Feasley, has a YouTube on video. Sometimes they say she has a video on YouTube about how to knit in the round in garter stitch. And she shows you how to do the wrapping and turning, which is what I always do because it's just enjoyable. And you can see a tiny bit. I mean, this hat, by the way, has not been washed or blocked. I'm gonna get closer to you. Hi, how are you? How are you doing? See, you can fail. So you can see the seam, right? Well, like, I mean, that's in the back of your head. And since this slouchy hat folds over anyway, so like, dude, I'm down with it. But anyway, so I made mine. I think the Kit Kat hat pattern suggests you make your hat 8.5 inches deep, and then you do like a 3 needle bind off to create this flat seam. So that's what I did. I just knit it. I just used the Ricky, but I only knit 8.5 inches deep, and then I did 3 needle bind off. I didn't tack my ears down. So then I wore it to the march, and then I thought, I don't know if I'm ever going to wear a pink hat. Definitely not going to wear a pink hat with ears because I'm just not that sassy. My outward self is not that sassy. Like, I'm already fat and loud, so I take up a lot of space anyway. Like, maybe I should keep my visual obnoxiousness down just like half a click. You know what I mean? Just saying. So what I did is later I just took out that 3 needle bind off because it's really easy just to rip that right out. And I had actually planned to do this, by the way. This was my intent when I cast on in the garter stitch. I just ripped out the 3 needle bind off, picked those stitches back up, and started knitting that Ricky hat. Totally works okay. So anyways, it needs to be washed because it needs to relax a little bit. Maybe I'll like it more. Also, it's very hot pink. I don't know if I can really, but whatever, we'll see. If not, I'll give it away. That's the great thing about knitting. Okay. So those are my finished objects. It kind of feels like I got more done than those 2 hats this week, but I guess that's really all I got done. Whatever. Okay, so the next thing, okay, I'll show you that because we already talked about this once. So the next thing I worked on a bit was my Find Your Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry. It's the one that everybody's doing. I know, give me the bandwagon, but it's fun. It's really fun to see everybody else's. And this is another one I really have enjoyed. Everybody's like rosy ones, like with rose and pinks and stuff. I've been very like this like rose champagne thing that's been happening. It's very enjoyable. Not my style at all, but man, it's enjoyable to look at them. So I'm a bit further than I was last time. About to drop some stitches off of the end of the needles. Oh, not about to. Already did. Dang it. Put things. I have those needle stopper things. What's wrong with me? Whatever. I even dropped that too. Oh, future self, remember to put that back on there. So I think last time I just had the blue and the orange. The blue is also hedgehog fibers in their sock. I think it's in like the Monet colorway. And then this orange is Cakewalk Fibers or Cakewalk Yarns speckled awesomeness that was left over. And then this pink is Deep Sea Jellyfish. And then this new color is this, which is Spun Right Round. It's like her 80-20 sock in the colorway Sugar Pop Fizz. Right. So this is not normally my colors at all either, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I think it's because I just finished that building blocks shawl that was like navy and rust. I needed something very different, and this has fulfilled that request. So this is very fun knitting. I even had to take some of it out because I had so little of this crazy orange cakewalk yarn that I ran out of it before I got the lace section done. So I even took some of it out, which I rarely do. I'm usually just like, figure it out. I ripped back the whole orange section and put more blue in to take me farther up. And then I just, because again, you can switch your colors at any point in these garter sections very easily. So it makes it very convenient if you just have odd amounts of yarn. So mine is just all scraps, except this Sugar Pop Fizz skein, which is a full skein. But everything else is just leftovers from other projects. This is kind of fun, okay? It's not kind of fun, it is legit fun. And then the next thing I'm working on, darn it, the color's over there. But I did put it on the post. Ooh, ah! So I purchased a skein of yarn from Twist Fiber Studio. She confuses me because her Instagram name is not her shop name. And I am very easily confused. It is her sport weight yarn, and this is the colorway Magic Mountain. So it is gorgeous. Like legit, straight up, it came. I mean, I was expecting it to be pretty from the picture, but then it came and I was like, oh, must immediately cast on. It's this like fun, tealy, sprucey with some brown in it. Camera, don't betray me. It's like 137% prettier than that. But anyway, I immediately had to make a hat. And in fact, I have that other super awesome hat that I was working on with my Leading Men Fiber Arts in the Yarn Hoarder colorway. But I have abandoned that one because it's too tight. So maybe I'll put both those skeins together and do like a upstairs, downstairs cowl or something. But I'm very jazzed about this project. Woolly Worm had just released a new pattern called Circled. She's got an ebook or a pattern collection, whatever we're calling these things. And it'll be 4 patterns. It's a Circled Hats group. And I think you can buy one pattern for $6 or the whole book for $12. I didn't really realize at the time that it was going to be a whole thing, but so I just bought one. But this is her Circled Hats number 1. And I am digging it, people. It is so fun to make. It's sideways. And usually I really like Grand Central Station up in here today, people. What's happening with the telephone? People are having domestic disturbances. People are calling. And I'm wearing a hat as a bonnet that's not completed yet. So clearly that's how today's going. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so I don't think I've had good, I mean, I've met my husband a couple of sideways hats that the brim was sideways, and then the top was picked up and knit up, and he liked them, but I personally, I mean, I've only made like, I think 2 other sideways hats, but I've just never had good luck with them. So I was hesitant, even though I really dug the photograph of this hat. Because just look at it. Will the camera focus? We'll see. Ooh. But yeah, there we go. That's right. Right. Shut up. How awesome is that? But I will also admit to you that when I printed out the pattern, I looked at it and I was like, there are too many words in this pattern. I'm looking for another pattern. So I did look for a few more patterns and then I was like, no, I really want to make that stupid thing. The pattern is not at all challenging. She's just very explicit. Instead of telling you there's short rows, of course, to shape the crown, and instead of just saying like knit to 2 stitches before, turn it and work the rest in pattern, continue that until you have like 36 stitches left or whatever, she actually tells you when you work back, like knit 7, slip a stitch, knit 3, or you know what I mean? She tells you exactly what to do, which I know a lot of knitters really appreciate, and I appreciate too, because sometimes it just helps with clarity, especially when you have when you're doing short rows, and it's written to either do German or traditional wrapped short rows, and so sometimes that it's not super clear whether you're knitting to a certain place and then turning the next stitch, or if you're knitting and then turning the last stitch. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes that's kind of like not, you're like, I feel ambiguous. I don't think you can feel ambiguous. I think you have to be ambiguous, whatever. So that is, it's very helpful for that clarification. And then really, once you establish, there's like basically in this one, the pattern, the slip stitch changes at 3 different places. So basically you just have to learn where the slip stitches are 3 times through the whole pattern. And it was not challenging for me. Once you establish the rhythm of it, it felt very easy. Because it is very symmetrical and like, anyways, I'm really digging it so far. I'm digging the yarn. I'm digging the pattern. Oh, and so I said this was sport. This is actually written for a fingering weight yarn, but I'm just knitting it. Sport fingering is pretty close, right? I mean, a hovering fingering weight and a light sport weight are basically the same thing. So I even thought, though, I might like to knit it in DK because, of course, your row gauge is what determines the actual circumference of the hat. And it's very easy to adjust that. I should not say it's very easy. It made sense how you could adjust that without being complicated of like, oh, I have to redo this math. You could just knit until it fits, basically. So it's not, especially I think the circled hats number 2 would be even easier to do that in. But so the actual stitch gauge is what gives you the depth of the hat. And so actually when I first started, I thought it was going to be plenty deep, and now, I don't know, my gauge changed or just like the world changed. And so now I'm not sure that it's going to be deep enough. I mean, it definitely fits, but I don't know if it'll be slouchy as much as I like it. So once I got done about this far-ish, I realized that, and so I thought, oh, do I have to rip all that out? So what I did was I picked up I just did like a little section about this big where I picked up this bottom stitches and knit a few rows, and it looks really cute that way too. So if I get it and I want it to be slouchier, I can just pick up the bottom circumference and knit some garter, and I think it'll still look cool because you already have these lines this way and lines this way, so I don't think it'll be like glaringly weird. I think it'll just add another dimension to it if you have a cuff. And also, that gives me comfort because I feel like sometimes sideways hats stretch out too much. And so if I find that is a problem, I can also add a little brim on there. Because I wear my hats a lot. I mean, like, a lot. I wear them, like, all day mostly. So, yeah, I'm very excited about it. And now I want to knit this hat, like, 75 different times. So, just get ready. You might be seeing it a lot. And that's all, right? Whew. Shameless self-promotion is really not very shameless or self-promoty, but it is a little bit. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Whatever. I'm doing the Knitting Pipeline Retreat. That's the weekend of February 17th and 18th. So that Sunday when I get home, I will have an update. It will probably just be, there's going to be a few of the National Parks bags because, of course, when you order yardage, you have to order full yards. So I have a little bit of extra fabric. So I'm going to sew those up and offer those for sale in the shop. The other National Parks bags are going out in the mail tomorrow. So if you're waiting on one, it'll be there soon. But so those will go up. So that's February 19th. And I plan on February 19th to also offer the Knitting Pipeline fabric, the blue with the birth trees and the little finchy gold things. I don't know what bird that really is, but they're very cute. Oh, somebody told me they thought it was it was like a gold-breasted tit or something. I can't remember, but I can't remember what it was. So I'll offer those 2 on the February 19th, I think. And then I plan the next week on, that'll be Sunday. And then on the following Friday, which I believe is I have no idea what day it is, but the Friday after February 19th, I plan to also have another update with more of the bags that I brought back from Pipeline. So, oh no, that's right. I decided that it would be March 3rd. Okay, never mind. Sorry, erase that. So the Knitting Pipeline and the National Parks will go up February 19th. It's a Sunday. It's unusual, but it'll be on a Sunday. And then the next round of updates will happen on March 3rd. So just like as a heads up for the futures and whatnots. So March 3rd will have a big variety because it'll have everything that I purchased. I get a little extra to have in the shop. So for the show. Oh my gosh, right? Words and things and voices and sounds. Okay, I think that's all. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.